You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Episode of the Red Moon Podcast, the things you don't hear before we're on air.
I hear everything.
Welcome to another episode every Tuesday night live right here on YouTube Rumble. Not Rumble yet. We're getting there.
Would you hurry it up?
I know it's a lot of money, but we're getting there. Tons of other social media websites like Twitter and Facebook. All of them. We're coming for everybody. We want you all to tune in every single week. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host, Sean Sebastian.
EA?
Yeah, what was that?
The game. EA Sports. Yeah.
It's in the game. Do they still do that? I don't know. I don't know if they do.
I don't buy EA Sports games anymore.
Probably like
they've been the same games since 2001.
They're probably woke now.
They have trans players now.
EA Sports. It's in the pants. I don't know
it's
how that
not
would
in
be.
the pants.
I don't know if they
would
really
woke,
do.
but...
I'm just saying. It wouldn't surprise me.
Wait, what?
If they had like trans players and stuff on there.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Well, especially like if it had like a player creation or something. You just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Make them however you want. I mean, technically, it's funny because it's like you could do it on like WWE, but you just create a woman and be like, it's a man. Or vice versa.
Yeah.
You know, put them in that category.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
They are.
Indeed. They're coming for all of us.
Coming for our children.
They told us that.
Here's the thing. I'd be remiss.
Yeah.
If obviously when we came on a few weeks ago with the tragedy, it's not even been that long. Gosh, the tragedy in Nashville with the 3 children, 6 people shot
that's
and
what's
killed.
even more sad.
Because it's gone out of the headlines because of everything else that's happened, let alone Trump indictment. And then, of course, now we have our own mass shooting here in Louisville where we're based that we dealt with yesterday. It was just a incredibly sad day for our community. You're going to hear a lot of grandstanding from politicians out there. They were already at it today from our own Mayor Craig Greenberg, who is an absolute feckless idiot. I'll say it. I don't care. Along with Morgan McGarvey, who's he's just a shill. Pop-up
Bashir.
Pop-up Bashir. I mean, here's the thing. You know what?
He went light on it.
I'm gonna give Andy Bashir credit.
He did actually go light on that.
Not only did he go light, he was actually a little bit more in the moment.
Because he actually lost friends.
Well, yeah.
So
but I also think he realizes how he is a leader in a very red state, and he knows that he doesn't play certain things close. Look, Mayor Greenberg and Morgan McGarvey represent Louisville, the district. It's deep blue in a red state,
and that's all they
care about. They're all about the moral grandstanding and getting up there talking about we need to do more. We need to talk about gun violence, and it's like no, you need to talk about not only mental health. You need to talk about the fact that we have younger people who are going insane and not just committing suicide, but now taking out other people.
The city alone has been on a downward spiral
since Mayor Fisher.
Yeah,
started with him.
Yes, but what did I call him? Goldberg bags? Is this Goldberg?
Mayor Goldberg.
Mayor Goldberg. I'm going to continue to call him that because I don't respect him. But Mayor
the problem
Goldberg.
is that's a little too much credit.
Actually, that's probably giving him more.
Goldberg could spear
So we don't
somebody.
respect you, so we're going to give you a completely different name.
I wish somebody would spear him.
Goldberg's a better name. So
well, and of course he used his whole incident of I was involved in a workplace shooting. It's like, an opponent tried to shoot you and kill you. Running in the mayoral primary, and it's just like, and yet who knows where that guy's at? He's probably out on the street somewhere.
Yeah. Well, he's not a very good shot.
Well, I think they not only arrested him, but then he was apparently mentally incapacitated.
Of course,
yeah, they all are. You know,
well, the thing?
What's driving people insane?
I don't know. Maybe I guess it's the guns. I guess the guns are doing it. The inanimate object is doing it. It's driving the people insane because that's what we blame it on every time. No, just look, ignore all of the ridiculous stuff. Most of the people in the state do. I mean, look, we live in the city. You hear these press conferences. I'm sure all of the news outlets are going to be uttering the same sentiments and the same, quotes over and over again. It's tiresome because it happened in our community and it affects all of us in different ways, but more so because the things that they're talking about fixing the problem are really negating the real issues at hand. They don't want to fix the problem. They want us to suffer because they don't actually want to look at real solutions. They just want to get up there on their soapbox, say things that aren't really going to make a difference or make a change, and then act like they really care in that regard. They don't. These things will continue to happen until we stand up as a community and we don't excuse these people from getting away with it. We put more people behind bars, more incarcerations.
Keep them there.
And keep them there.
That's what happened with
the
the
other
other
need to be
shooting
let out
incident.
on the street.
In the same day, within the same hour, another shooting incident took place, and it was from a guy who had just gotten released from jail.
Yeah.
From prison.
Yeah, and it's like, okay.
Yep.
Was he really rehabilitated?
Just down the road.
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
Well, that's why the crime rate has gotten so bad in Louisville, is because they know it's like, well, nothing's going to happen. Well, first of all, you commit a crime, you probably won't ever see jail, and if you do, you're going to be let right out. So they don't
you
care.
or I, we would.
Yeah,
we would stay in jail for a
Well,
while.
of course.
For defending ourselves. We could literally
Yeah.
shoot somebody in self-defense and probably would end up in jail here in Louisville over the person that was actually trying to harm
Wouldn't
us.
surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And I thought it was interesting, too, because I know that AG Daniel Cameron, who is a Republican, obviously running against or running a mayoral or a gubernatorial primary right now to try to go up against Andy Beshear, has had a lot of contentious battles in the courts with him in the state. But yet I noticed he was down or he was up here in Louisville yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen him on camera. I don't know if he offered to give a statement or if he was willing, but I don't know if anybody asked or anybody noticed that he was even here. They may say, well, why do we need to ask the AG anything? I don't know, maybe because he's a prominent political figure.
Yeah, Fox interviewed him.
Oh, they did?
But yeah, he didn't. They tried to bait him into the gun thing, and he wouldn't get into it.
Good.
He was just like, no, we need to mourn right now.
Yeah.
And,
yes.
Yeah.
And honestly, and like I said, credit where credit is due. Andy Beshear took that approach yesterday. Maybe it was because he knew what was going to happen in the press conferences today where he wasn't a part of them. But everything he said yesterday, most of what he said, I stood behind in a larger scale because it was, and I will say, even yesterday as the event was unfolding and taking place, most of the politicians did not beat that drum. But of course, it's only one day later.
Sure. And
now in the world of social media and the 24-hour news cycle that we've lived in for 20, 30 years, it's now become appropriate to just, boom, laser in now on the moral grandstanding that is just absolutely sickening and taking advantage of a tragedy just to get political points in a district that you already win anyway. McGarvey's Yarmouth 2.0, and he's just going to be in Congress probably for another 50 years, the same as Yarmouth was for as long as he reigned. And it's basically we're just going to be stuck with this mouthpiece for the left from our own city. Basically, it's like across the entire nation. We've seen crime rise in all the major cities. It's getting worse because your Democrat-run cities, your blue cities, don't want to actually fight crime.
Yep.
They want to allow it to happen, so you're more enabled to not defend yourself, but count on them to defend you, even though you may not have that chance or that opportunity in a last second. Thank God those police officers were close to the position of where they could take the shooter out. The police cam video was released today, and we all watched it within 3 minutes, which is a long time. And when you're watching it in footage, but just the same as the bravery of those Nashville police officers. Thank God we had those agents that were running down there.
Well, one of them's in critical care.
One of them
because,
was shot. Is in stable but critical condition. I don't know if any update on that news has come out since we're on air now, and I don't know if there's any update.
I'm not aware of any.
If he's passed or
Just
he's
know
still
he's
stable.
a kid, fresh out of the 10
he
days on the job.
Yeah.
Just graduated.
Just sad loss of life, sad evil tragedy that happened yesterday here in our city. But the fact of the matter is thank God we had those brave men and women in uniform to show up to take care of business. The shooter was dead within. It's sad that he was able to go in. It was a current or possibly soon to be fired employee from the bank. Went in to wreak carnage, shot and killed 5 people, possibly with the intention of killing more. And thank God police showed up on the scene as quick as possible and neutralized it. And thank God for them. and God bless them and any brave man or woman on the front lines. One last thing I want to say on this issue is there was one piece of news coverage I saw from a retired police chief from Bullitt County. I'm forgetting his name. It was Alan something. I can't remember his name. You could probably find it online if you search for it. But the one of the news anchors just point blank asked him, said, is there anything we can do? Are there any laws? And he said, there are some laws. He said there's 10 of them, and Moses wrote them down on a tablet long ago. Said, thou shalt not kill. And he said, the fact of the matter is that when you have laws in place, the good people are the ones that follow the laws. The bad people are the ones that break them. Doesn't matter how many laws you put in place, you cannot expect that bad people are going to follow those laws to a T. Yeah. And that right there just summed up the whole argument for me. But you won't hear him quoted. You won't hear him being repeated on newscasts throughout our city or even nationally. You're going to continue to hear Mayor Craig Greenberg, who has a D by his name, and you'll hear Morgan McGarvey, who has a D by his name, who are clearly trying to win political points and not truly try to solve any problems whatsoever. They're not sincere. Don't believe them. They are not sincere. But sadly, we live in a city and we live in a time where a lot of people, they tune off. They tune out. They don't pay attention. And this is how these things happen. We have a moral community level crisis in this country. And if we do not come together and we do not institute the values that the retired police chief was talking about in those 10 commandments, and we don't go back to actually respecting and having civil respect for our common man, you're going to see more of these mass shooting events continue to happen. And it's not an inanimate object you can blame. It's why are these people committing these crimes at such a rapid rate, not only just because of the exposure, but simply because it's no longer about just me feeling pain and dealing with it. Now everybody's going to feel my wrath. And it is absolutely evil. And we have to do something. We have to point it out, and we have to start changing at the youngest age of nurturing and bringing up children in an environment where we respect life again. And we actually need to deal with those who want to take it senselessly. We need to deal with them in the same way, whether it's we put them behind bars for life or we execute them. We fight fire with fire. We need to nip this in the bud, and we need to put it out. That's how we win this. Alrighty, guys. Sorry about that. Obviously, you could tell passions are a little running high because, again, this is hitting close to home for all of us here.
Yeah.
But we carry on. Of course, we got a great show planned. Got a great movie. Another great movie. I think there's a little bit of controversy out there as to, critical versus, audience score. And also, even from people who you would think would rally behind this film, kind of nitpicking it a little bit. I think we have our own gripes. But it was the big one on the block this week.
Yeah.
Super Mario Bros. Finally hit theaters. So maybe we should just go ahead and get in that review. Let's do it.
Go ahead.
Here's our review.
In 1993, a small independent film studio called Leitmotiv delivered the first live-action film ever based on a video game, Super Mario Bros. Having convinced Nintendo to license them the rights to make the movie, Leitmotiv promised Nintendo more creative control than any big-name studio would give them. And in a surprising twist, Nintendo declined creative control, retaining only the merchandising rights. Upon release, Super Mario Bros. Was a complete and utter failure. Considered to be amongst the worst movies ever made, Nintendo would not allow another film adaptation of their IPs again, until now. From Illumination and Nintendo comes the Super Mario Bros. Movie, directed by Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic, and starring an all-star cast that includes Chris Pratt as Mario, Charlie Day as Luigi, and Anya Taylor-Joy as Princess Peach, with Jack Black as Bowser. Serving as an origin story for most of the cast of characters, the film's story follows Mario and Luigi as they are accidentally sucked into a warp pipe discovering the Mushroom Kingdom. In a twist on the usual Mario story, Luigi is captured by Bowser and Mario must seek aid from the princess of the Mushroom Kingdom to get him back. Despite switching out Luigi and Peach's roles, the film does more or less follow the standard Mario tropes and story beats, though the games themselves have never been particularly story-heavy for the most part. Bowser is still obsessed with Peach, looking to conquer the world in a bid to force her to marry him, And even though captured, Luigi does still get his moment to shine. Chock full of fan service and Easter eggs, you could tell this film was cater-made for fans, though is accessible to anyone. And in spite of outcries from fans, I personally felt the majority of the voice cast delivers solid work that accentuates the personalities of each character, including Chris Pratt, who does offer a subtle accent and even plays around with the more stereotypical Mario sound at one point. The Super Mario Bros. Movie crams in an amazing amount of characters, references, and Easter eggs, while still giving each character and set piece a sense of purpose. Despite this, however, the film's pacing still feels rather rushed. While it's true there isn't any characters or plot that feel unnecessary, the film could have slowed down a bit during many scenes to allow emotional moments time to breathe. The movie offers up plenty of heartfelt moments that could have really developed the characters, but shies away from really allowing these moments to land. This is, however, my only major gripe, and one critics have torn the film apart for, and that is that the Super Mario Bros. Movie plays it just a bit too safe. The story is simple and generic, and the characters' motivations are just barely more than superficial. While the games rely on their gameplay and don't require as much depth, movies on the other hand need character depth to keep audiences invested. Luckily, however, the humor, set pieces, and fan service help to make up for some of these shortcomings, and as a first entry from Nintendo, it is a solid film. It's not a revolutionary movie, but the Super Mario Bros. Movie does deliver on what Nintendo knows fans expect of its brand, while being a clean and entertaining family film. I give the Super Mario Bros. Movie 3 out of 4 stars.
3 out of 4 stars. I mean, that's not.
You better hit that button.
Hey, there it is.
Well, I mean,
I didn't add anything.
There's only the 2 now, and the other one, like, I don't know. I mean, if the movie had been bad, I could have gave it that one.
You could have.
Yeah, you didn't
know.
need to, though.
No.
Yeah.
Because it was 3 out of 4.
Yeah, no, I liked it. It was, despite what critics say, I understand some of their gripes, but I think they're going to the extreme with it. So it is a solid family film. It doesn't reinvent the wheel at all, but it stays true to Nintendo and the Mario brand. It sets up, I think, a nice first film from them because they are planning to make more. And I mean, I just appreciate that it's actually it's funny. I mean, it's well done. It fits the characters.
Mm-hmm.
It is clean, so anybody can watch it. If anything, that's the only downside is that it's just a little bit. It is more on the younger, I think, kids side, and it's not something that I think is as universal a movie as something like Pixar's Inside Out. But that's okay. It doesn't have to be. And the fact that there is enough meat in there to appease adults, I just wanted a little bit more of the emotional meat, but that's okay. Like, it is a good movie that anybody can see.
I feel like for me, the appeal as an adult was definitely the nostalgia trip. Like the fact that
All the Easter
I remember
eggs
in '89, my dad brought a Nintendo Entertainment System home with the blaster and it had Mario and Tetris, and it was just like that was the coolest thing that we had ever done. And me and my dad sat and played that. Like, we played Mario. My dad still can't play Mario still, but he tried because it had 2 controllers, and we would sit there and play, and I just got better at it and he stayed the same. but it was just something that we did together, and I remember that. And even though this is a lot more cartoony than the 8-bit Mario that I'm used to, and it reminds me more of Sunshine and Galaxy and
Even
Odyssey.
a bit of Odyssey.
Yeah, it reminds me more of those games.
Yeah, they did a good job of trying to combine almost all the iterations of Mario.
Yeah.
Not in terms of like him throughout each iterations, but bits and pieces of all the games.
Did they give you enough a little bit?
The enemies and stuff are
Yes.
from the beginning.
But they also leave out enough that they can make more movies. Like, there's so much more that they didn't touch on.
Of course, like
Wario, and I mean, they're going to put all of that stuff in there. Yoshi.
Well, even teased.
Yeah.
I mean, even some of, like, we talked about, like, Paper Mario, some of the plots with, like, the different stars there, because they just used the super, like, they really kept the plot simple to the original Nintendo kind of game. Like, Bowser was just after the superstar and Peach, and, like, they didn't really get into any of the wider lore that some of, like, Sunshine or Galaxy or even Odyssey had, so they could still touch on some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, Nintendo's games are always simplistic anyways. They never have a large depth of story, but that they're always entertaining and the gameplay is always innovative. And I think this movie translated a lot of the Easter eggs and gameplay
that's
moments.
the thing too, is you got to think from a Nintendo perspective. I mean, let's face it. It's like they've been these characters are not only mainstays in our culture and worldwide phenomenon. I mean, I think at this point Mario is synonymous with Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, I mean, he's just as well known.
He's just as well known, and yet you've had Mario now for what, 30 years? About 30 years that he's been on the scene, and just over 30. And it's like, for them to have built the backbone of the character in the video game industry and have all of these iterations through all of these console generations and beloved fans across the world, and they're, we brought it up in the beginning of the review with the old original movie just being terrible, terrible representation of the series and the heart of what Mario is. It's nice to see an actual, feel of what a Mario movie is from the actual creator of Mario, Shigeru Miyamoto.
Yeah.
And you see his heart and soul in this and in this world that is built on film. And it's like, okay, it's nice because it's been 30 years, but the iterations you've seen in the video games you haven't seen in film yet because we're just getting there. Yeah. And it's funny how we jokingly talked about in the last few weeks with all the franchise films, but actually how we were tired of franchises, but the last few films we've reviewed, whether it be Creed 3 or what was another one? John Wick, that's part of a franchise, that are great movies. And here I am seeing a movie that actually makes me want to be like, hey, I'm ready for a Nintendo franchise. I'm ready for Legend of Zelda, Metroid Prime.
And a lot of people, and I agree. I said it.
Star Fox.
Yes,
that'd be awesome.
I said it outside the theater, and I've seen a lot of people, and IGN's actually had an article about how Nintendo could be a company that could rival Marvel in the way that others can't, because they have so much IP like Kirby, Star Fox, Metroid, Zelda, that they could, like, there's actually a joke poster of the Nintendo Cinematic Universe that has this as the first movie, and then it shows Kirby, Star Fox, Zelda,
think of a get-together,
Metroid, and then the
like
very
you
last
said,
one,
Smash Brothers.
Well, that's
where you've got all those
that was
characters
the end of the
coming
meme.
together.
Yeah, the last one of the meme was Smash Brothers, kind of like Phase 1 of Marvel, where you had Iron Man, and then the last one was Avengers.
I would love that.
And I was like, yeah, they could if Nintendo wanted to.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want them to. That's the thing, and I appreciate this because Nintendo themselves have said that they're focusing right now on just one movie at a time, and I don't want them to rush into it. And I'm glad that Nintendo's like, we know our IP and we want it respected. That was part of the whole deal with this movie, was that they wanted a company that would mesh with them, that wasn't going to try to, walk over them, because that's just what the original movie, when Nintendo was like, oh no, we don't need to have any say in the movie, you're fine, like, because they thought, anything that the movie did experimentally would be the movie, and their brand would be its own thing and would be fine. And then when they saw the movie, it's like, yeah, their brand was strong enough to withstand the bad movie. They were right, but at that point they were just like, yeah, but we don't want
we're not going to do that again.
Yeah.
right. Well, and I think you've seen that in terms of, especially on the front of the consoles. It's like they've had their fair share of failed or not popular consoles, but every time you see a Mario game, a Zelda game, you have these pillars of Nintendo that always are system sellers. And those have been what have supported. Yeah. It's the same way in which a lot of Sony fanboys will prop up PlayStation and being a first-party studio as to why you come there to game.
But that's all Nintendo
and that's
has
all
is
Nintendo
first party.
Has.
Yeah.
And it's like, and even their third-party support, while it has opened up in recent years, you still see them primarily being focused on their first party games.
The Switch really isn't strong enough to have a lot of third party support. Even the ones they do have, a lot are streaming games, because the Switch itself can't run the game.
Right. And that's always been their kind of de facto, point going into a new generation, is we're not going to create the most powerful hardware, but we're going to make enough to where it's a leap in innovation, whether it's the Wii or the Switch, and we're going to have this game catalog that's going to be so classic and completely timeless that you want it to be part of your library, and they are the reason why you would buy a Nintendo console.
I mean, I would be honest, that was the main reason I got the Switch, was for Breath of the Wild. And I've bought and played other games, but honestly, for me, Breath of the Wild was worth it. I absolutely loved that game. So,
but even with this film, I agree, 3 out of 4. And primarily the main reason I knocked off the extra star was two things. I mean, it was very generic and very milquetoast. Like you said and pointed out in the review, there were certain emotional moments that they really could have, been a lot deeper. They could have drawn out and been a lot more impactful. They do have them.
I appreciate that they do attempt it. It's just I wish they had let some of them
expound on anything.
I was going to say, and that's the reason you kind of dabble into this universe as opposed to just the video games, where, again, give credit where credit is due. Nintendo's always been more focused on the gameplay elements and making it fun to play. And that's great for a game. That's what you you want a game to be. But for a movie where I'm just sitting and watching, I want to feel a greater connection and sense
to the
of
characters,
emotional depth that you get from a Pixar film. And they definitely have, I think, the springboard here set in place for this franchise, or however many more Nintendo properties they want to dabble in. But the other thing that I had a huge gripe against, and this is kind of what's caused a little bit of division and a little bit of backlash from, I would think, more conservative, base people out in the ethos and Twitterverse and social media, and that is the fact that there is the prominent, Peach character being much more the dominant role model and figure for females, and being
she
a female
comes very
lead
close to being a Mary Sue. Not, I mean, they toe it back, I think, just enough that she isn't one. But I mean, they definitely walk that line. Like, I mean, she's not Rey from Star Wars. Like, I can just do anything.
Yeah.
But
no weakness.
But
at
she's
all.
also not the princess that gets kidnapped every time and you never see her throughout the game.
And that was where it was a little bit, because I mean, they kind of gave that role to Luigi, and not until the very, very end of the movie did they have Luigi crack out of that shell. No pun intended. But it's one of those situations where Mario is, I think, still definitely on top in the end, and they even make it like Luigi looks up to Mario, and he's the one that is always the one to save the day and step in and kind of come up with his shortcomings or make up for his shortcomings.
They have for some decent. I don't know if you watched the Midnight's Edge video I sent, but I mean, he mentions like there are some decent themes with Mario obviously wanting to, they want to make their parents proud. Part of his drive is that, like, he wants his dad to approve of him, and he does look after his brother, and he doesn't, just try to hog all the glory. He wants Luigi to succeed too. So there are actual positive male role model traits to Mario in this movie that I think a lot of other movies, it's like, even with giving Peach a little bit of boost, which I understand to some extent, because the character would be pretty boring if all she was.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
I think they gave her just enough to keep her from being boring.
So I don't mind giving her development, making her more capable. I mean, even in some of the games, like, you can play as her.
And even in the backstory that they hint at with her, that's one of those emotional elements where it could have been a lot stronger and had made a bigger impact into her character arc and why she is the way she is. Because if she's not necessarily, I mean, we definitely see her in more of a damsel in distress instance towards the end of the film. That that caters to what you see in the games, especially the earlier
titles. They told the line a little bit there too, where I was like, is she ever going to, like, need any help? And then it comes in, but I was just for a moment there, I was just like
a little worried. And rightfully so. Like, I don't mind the nitpicking in a way. I don't think it ruins the movie. And no, I don't think this is like a bastion of anti-wokeness that some people are calling it, but it's a good family film, and it doesn't have the even subtle undertones, or sometimes they're not so subtle, woke things thrown in, but they're just thrown in for 2 seconds so they can say, ha, we got our jab in there, that are just so obviously virtue signaling from a lot of, like, the Marvel movies and Disney these days in general. But that's why, and it's not about, we just got to rest on our laurels and be thankful for that, and that's where we're at. We're just settling. No, it's the first movie from a studio that, think about it, Nintendo's a very traditional company, and there's a lot of games that they have that they're still releasing with these characters in it that don't have any of those undertones. And so I'm sorry, but
their brand.
Even if Illumination comes in, and I think it's mentioned in the Midnight Edge video.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know what his source is. So like I said, I have no idea if any of it's true, but he had stated that at one point the original script had Peach being more of a heroine and Mario being a little bit more of just kind of bumbling around and lucking into success, and Luigi just being, basically the damsel in this movie the entire time, until Nintendo stepped in and said, no, this is called the Super Mario Brothers. Luigi needs to have his due. Mario needs to be a competent hero, and they adjusted from there. Now, I don't know if that's true. And I could definitely see Nintendo doing that if that was true, though.
And maybe I'm giving it too much credit, but also it's like, the way it's explained in the film, and it doesn't need to go any deeper. This is actually one part I'm glad they kind of glossed over. It's like they literally go to save a manhole pipe burst or whatever in the beginning of the film to prove that they're worthy enough, and they find this underground pipe that takes them to this mushroom kingdom. And I'm like, that alone right there, I'm like, okay, they're in a foreign land. They have no idea what this world is. Granted, they kind of just go along with it regardless and don't question too many things. That was, but hey, I'm like, okay, I'm along for the ride. But it was one of those moments where I'm like, him failing at some of the challenges that Peach is up against, they make it very clear that it's like, okay, she's lived in this world. She's been there since she was a child. She's an adult now.
Yeah.
So she clearly has mastered this. This is the first time in his world he's facing this. And it only takes him a few hours.
Yeah, and he does actually.
So
yeah.
I'm like, it actually kind of makes sense in that regard of like, he's not just a bumbling idiot. He actually just takes him a while to get over the challenges.
Yeah, you have
that
your
this
comedic
world's gonna
moment of him
face.
failing,
Well, I think
but
that
it's him
that
learning.
new world is what gave him the chance to shine and the chance to become the hero.
Right.
It's like in the real world where he's from, he's just another guy on the block. But in that world, he can be the Mario, the Super Mario that he's supposed to be.
Yep.
And I feel like I thought they did a good job when they do the gauntlet and he fails.
Yeah.
Even though he gets better, he still fails at the end. And she's finally like, no, I can see that you're going to get it. So
Yes.
let's go.
Yeah.
We don't have time, and you're excelling. And I like that he says, how many times did it take you? And she's like, oh, thousands of times or whatever. And then he's like, no, it didn't. And she's like, no, I got it on the third try or whatever. And I'm like, that's fine. But then by the end of the movie, I feel like his abilities outshine her, and to the point where he can become the hero.
In the moment where he faces Donkey Kong and the fact that they're sitting there on the throne and she's just like, you shouldn't have challenged him.
Yeah.
And yet that's a moment where he has a moment to rise and meet the challenge, and he rises above
Perseverance,
it. And he perseveres, exactly. And you see them in the background kind of looking at it like, oh, this is ugly, but he finds a way.
Yeah, and she's impressed.
Yeah.
And
I liked it was subtle. I wish they would have played it up a little bit more. The romance between Mario and Peach.
Yeah.
They
but
have
they
the
definitely
in
show it.
there. It's just they don't play it up as much as they could. But I mean,
And maybe that'll be something that comes into play
you
later.
have
Exactly.
future
Like
movies,
to
so-
me, there's certain things where I'm like, this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
And granted, I definitely will make these same gripes, and my review score will go down if it's the same kind of milquetoast flavor for the second
if it's
film.
always what we got with this one, eventually it'll get old. But I mean,
Because you're right, you don't make progress if you just play it safe. And I have no problem holding Nintendo accountable, but I'm just happy for an outing that takes these beloved characters in this world and brings it out in a way in which families and children can enjoy.
Stays true to who the characters are, gives a nice, clean family movie.
Yep.
I mean, I enjoyed it. Jack Black's song is now
Oh,
in the
yeah.
top 100 on iTunes. So
Peaches.
Yes.
That's
So-
all my kids, when they came home
Yes.
from Alabama, they
Yep.
went and saw it, and that's all they remembered from
Is
the movie
Peaches.
was
Yep.
Peaches.
Man, I tell you, I didn't have a problem with. Well, I did have a problem with one of the voices, but not Chris Pratt or Charlie Day. A lot of people complained about
None of the
them.
main cast.
None of the main cast. Yeah, Jack Black, I think by far was the standout. I mean, he was perfect as Bowser. I mean, even just the voice he gave, like you could still hear Jack Black a little bit, but it does also sound like Bowser. Like it's a nice. Whereas I know a lot of people complained is like Chris Pratt just sounds like Chris Pratt, or you just.
I
I
like it.
disagree.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think
knew
he does.
it was him.
Yes.
But he does. They do put on a mild Brooklyn accent, which makes sense for the characters because they're supposed to be from Brooklyn.
Right.
They don't do the stereotypical Italian, but accordingly,
Well, they do in their
and
in
that's how
their
you
like
know.
commercial or whatever.
The
Like I like that.
directors,
That was perfect.
Nintendo, the directors, and Chris Pratt and Charlie Day all have said like. For the whole time, people have complained that no, like that's not the voice Nintendo or the directors wanted, so we didn't do it. And then when you see that scene in the movie where they do the stereotypical voice, and you realize they're right, this was a creative choice. They chose for Chris Pratt and Charlie Day to not do the stereotypical voice.
Yep.
So any complaints there would have to fall on the creators, not Chris Pratt. But of course, everybody hates Chris Pratt, so they're going to be like, well, he's just not.
I like how they
talented.
joke about it too. It's just like, and what about that accent? Like
Yeah.
in the commercial. It's
Yes.
like,
Yeah,
I
I
love
love
that.
it. I
They
love
poke
it.
fun at the fact
Well,
that
they do have Charles Martinet, the original voice actor, actually two perfect roles. They do have a character that represents the original Jumpman Mario from Donkey Kong, and then he also does the voice of Mario's dad. And, so, and I thought that was perfect. That the original Mario is Mario's father. So
that's fantastic. Also, I think too that it's like I liked the little nods there, but you kind of understand that they're trying to make it accessible and I think available for everyone. But again, it's a good first start.
Yeah.
It's a good first start. I don't know why you have so many on critics who are bashing it because it doesn't go far enough. Or
It really
is generic.
blows my mind
But-
how much critics have acted like this movie is just horrendous. And I'm like, yes, it's safe. I agree with you there. It's a little generic. Those gripes are valid.
every Mario game is generic.
But that's my thing. It's like
she gets kidnapped. He
the
has to go
very-
save her. It's
at the very
so
worst,
generic.
with it being generic and safe. At the very worst, I can't see you giving it
Oh.
lower than 2.5 stars. But even
Yeah.
still, I mean, it's got like
The other
just some
voice,
horrible reviews.
I was gonna say I wasn't too fond of was Cranky. Cranky
Yeah,
Kong.
that was
yeah.
that was the one I didn't care
Yeah.
for. Yeah,
and I forget who it is.
Armin is his name.
Yeah,
Fred
yeah,
Armin.
yeah. Fred, yeah, something like that.
I don't-
I'm messing it up. I'm
I'm
butchering.
going
I don't want to
to.
butcher it.
I
look
don't
it
want to
up.
butcher it.
But
'cause I don't know.
yeah, that was the only other one that I wasn't fond of in terms of I didn't think it sounded like I wanted it to sound
Fred
like
Armisen. That's
Armisen.
it. Armisen. Yeah.
I just wanted it to sound.
He's a funny guy,
a
but
little
yeah,
bit more ornery and old dude, like just kind of a tired old soul, just doesn't put up with any
I
crap.
like Cranky
That's who
Kong
yeah.
sounding cranky, like cantankerous, and I agree he didn't really have the cantankerousness to him.
And the cantankerousness. I would agree. 100%.
I wanted more of that. Yeah.
They did include briefly. I wanted to see more of it.
Uh-oh.
The Donkey Kong rap from
Oh.
the N64.
Yes,
They
that was
threw it in there as a
amazing.
nod, but I'm like, I want to hear some of the lyrics.
I just like the whole soundtrack was because there are moments where you can hear the Donkey Kong Country theme like blended into the soundtrack while they're at like the Kong Kingdom or whatever. There's so many times like when the Mario theme or other like themes from just the different games kind of are woven into the soundtrack. It's not just straight up the theme, and I actually really enjoyed that.
Oh,
Yeah.
when Jack Black sits down at the piano and goes,
Yeah.
"Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun,"
Yes.
and then he's like, "Come here and sit down and play with me," and they start playing it together.
Yes.
Like that was so freaking good.
It was.
Like I'm just like that was.
It was a good nod, and
It
it was
was,
perfect
yeah.
the way it built up.
Yes.
But I also another knock against it in the music area was some of the 80s
Now that I agree
music
with.
they used
Oh,
was
yeah.
very
The original
cliche.
soundtrack, the original like scored soundtrack, I like. The music was all very generic picks.
Yeah, it was like everybody knows these songs, and yeah, they made sense.
I think there were like songs from the era of when Nintendo was released.
They
You know?
were,
Right,
but
and that's
still,
fine.
they just picked. Like that's we've talked about this in the past. Guardians of the Galaxy, Stranger Things. They do a really good job of picking '80s music, and yeah, they'll pick
But
some generic
more
ones,
obscure
but they pick
tone,
stuff that like
tunes that you haven't heard or aren't popularized in pop culture.
yeah, and like all the
They
ones in
almost-
this one you
they-
hear in movies all the time.
They
yeah.
bring it up in pop culture, and it rises to the top of the charts again. I mean, just like with Stranger Things and the climbing up that hill.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like nobody knew that song before unless you were a huge '80s music.
Unless
fan.
you were like a teenager in the '80s, that
and
was
it's like, but
yeah.
of course, it's like that. You have those moments, and it brings that back because it evokes a
And
certain
again, these
emotion.
aren't like we gave the movie 3 stars. We
Yeah, it's
obviously
not
liked
bad.
it,
Yeah.
So
and I agree. It's like I think some people are being too critical and others are being too positive. It's a good family film to take your kids to and just enjoy. It's okay that not everything in I get it. It's pop culture, but sometimes you need neutral zones in pop culture. And thank God Nintendo delivered that with this film.
Well, if anything,
Because it's like you don't need everything to be a
Yeah.
battleground. Part of winning the battle is not making everything the battleground. It's how you take the culture back.
we're showcasing
and
how you
say,
can be
okay,
successful, yeah.
Right. It's like, to me, part of winning the cultural battle is saying not everything has to be politicized.
yes.
And that's how you actually kind of take it away from being politicized.
Because that's the one thing I do. I'm glad this movie's doing so well for, because I hope when you see how much Disney floundered this past year, Lightyear, Strange Worlds, Turning Red. Sorry, it choked up a little.
Don't cry about
But
it.
it's
Oh,
not
yeah,
not
it's
choked
okay,
up cry,
man.
just
I
my
choked up
throat
over
was all
Lightyear.
dry.
Yeah.
It's like that star
But,
in the movie. That was
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
The star was so good. We're all gonna die.
Yes, it's like the sweet embrace of death. But yeah, I hope like Disney sees how successful this movie is, because it's breaking records. It's doing really well. I mean, it's outgrossed all of the openings that Disney had last year, and I hope they look at this movie and realize, oh, well, maybe if we go back to doing what we used to do, we can get people to come back to our movies. Because I mean,
No, they're gone.
they're not. You're right.
What did I
gonna
say?
talk
What
about
did I
it,
say
yeah.
in the theater?
Yep.
I said Pixar's dead.
Pixar's dead.
As soon as the movie was over, I was like, Pixar's dead.
But well, they got a lot of rope. They got a lot of rope.
They do.
Well, they're
That's
going
a
to
lot
tie
of
it
rope
into
And I
to
don't
a
think
noose and hang
and I don't
themselves.
think
That's right.
Illumination's gotten quite close to that quality yet. But
Not yet.
But hey,
But this is a good start.
Yeah.
We're gonna dive right into that with our headlines. So let's just roll right into that. Because one of the questions we're asking this week with regard to our headlines happens to be on a few things that revolve around Disney. I mean, I hate to
actually,
say,
all three of these headlines kind
Yeah.
of mesh together,
they,
because
they do. I mean,
because we talk about Mario's biggest global animated film opening, which is the third headline, but it still ties into everything we've already
And
Yeah.
I kind of want to start with talking about specifically. Oh crap!
Are you all right?
Yeah.
He's got the phlegm buildup. It's allergy season.
Allergies. Yeah.
He's got them allergies in there. But no, let's talk about. I'm trying to think of which one I want to bring up first. I think it'll be the second one.
Okay.
Kind of get this out of the way because it's our main headline this week that we wanted to bring up. And the fact is that Star Wars
celebration.
Yep, Star Wars. Let's talk about whether it should be celebrated
I
or
didn't
not.
celebrate it. I didn't even know about it.
I didn't either.
I mean, I don't ever know about them anymore because that's what happens when you oversaturate the market. It's like when you have so much crap, it's like Star Wars Celebration used to be fun because there wasn't a lot of content, so you could get together, and like actually celebrate something you enjoyed and keep it alive until the next movie in the next 20 years.
Yeah.
And now when you're constantly inundated with it and it gets old like Marvel, there are a few projects I am looking forward to just because I still trust Dave Filoni a little bit, but most of them I honestly didn't care about.
Well, what was interesting about it, like I said, I didn't even know about it. I'm sitting here listening to Disney talk about how they're not going to make any Star Wars stuff for a while because they want to focus on quality and not quantity. Yeah. So when there's a Star Wars celebration, I'm not really expecting them to announce a lot, especially not another movie. And here they are coming out and saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, we got shows and we got another, movie coming out."
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, aren't you supposed to be waiting a while? Like, doesn't sound like they're waiting.
No, and honestly, they can't let a good thing go to waste.
Yeah.
But the problem is they're not putting out anything good. The whole slate of what I saw, the only thing I was interested in was, and it's something that's been announced for forever, it was just a final trailer, is the Jedi Survivor game.
Yeah.
And that comes out, it got delayed, it pushed back a month.
It was out in May.
May,
I
2
believe.
months. Because it was originally supposed to come out in March.
April.
Oh, is it
Tears
this
of the
month? So
Kingdom
it was
is
a
May,
month.
Yeah. I think it's
Okay.
April 28th. Yeah.
So I'm just sitting here thinking, like, that's the only property that I'm even looking forward to is now the games have finally started to. And it really started with Fallen Order. At least it's not like there's not KOTOR or KOTOR 2 or other great Star Wars games. There's always been a string of them. But it seems like they're finally starting to kind of put the care and devotion into them.
Well, just
and tie
Fallen
them in
Order
with,
because the Battlefield games have been mediocre.
Right.
And
Well,
then they did Rogue
they're
Squadron, and that didn't go anywhere.
They're Super Smash Brothers light, light competition.
Yeah.
That's all they are. And I'm like, at the end of the day, you've got these massive overarching storylines that you can touch on, and games are a great way to not only fill in some of that backstory and deliver it, but make a smaller story seem more focused and more impactful because you're playing as the character. And I ultimately think that just with these movies and these series, they've wasted all these opportunities, whether it's just the weak, it's the premise and the preface of this is going to be huge and this is going to fill in so much or add extra impactful notes to these characters that you've known for forever, whether it be Obi-Wan or Book of Boba Fett. And yet they always end up falling short for the massive fans that appreciate them, and they never end up coming to fruition.
It does seem like they are backing off of like some of that a little bit and are focusing now. Because I watched the Ahsoka trailer, which is a character I'm really fond of, that Dave Filoni's still doing that series, and obviously with
he's also still doing. He's working on Mandalorian as well, right?
Yeah. Him and Favreau do Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and then one of the movies they announced is a movie that Filoni's making that's supposed to tie in those series into this single movie as like kind of, I guess, this massive finale. And it seems they're doing the Heir to the Empire story from the books that everybody wanted to be the sequel trilogy, because Ahsoka even name drops. She says Heir to the Empire in the trailer. So now everybody kind of has an idea of where Filoni's been building. Because in The Mandalorian, she's asking about Thrawn, which is the villain of that series. He introduced that character in Star Wars Rebels, the animated series. They've already casted actors to play the live-action roles of some of these characters in that show. So that's why I'm excited about that, is just because I loved Rebels. I like what Filoni's done with Bad Batch and the Clone Wars animated series. I liked his involvement with Mandalorian. Now I don't know how much say he has anymore. There's been rumors that Kathleen Kennedy has been stepping in, and some of the decisions like having Grogu and Mandalorian, spoiler alert, but having them come back together in the Book of Boba Fett after he separated them at the end of season 2, so that at the very beginning of season 3 they're already together. Well, guess what? If you didn't watch Book of Boba Fett, you're wondering how the hell did these two get back together?
Yeah.
We just saw them shipped and separated. So it's one of those things
Well,
where,
and by your own admission, you
Yeah.
have not seen Mandalorian.
I have not
season
seen this
3
season,
yet.
Yeah.
but I have
But you've
heard
seen
that
the spoiler.
I've read that there's been
was so bad.
she's stepped in and demanded certain changes, and fans apparently have not been happy with this season. So I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like I do trust Favreau and Filoni, but I also don't know if I can trust them to have the balls to say no, we're doing it our way or we're walking. So I don't. It's one of those things where it's like I like this story idea of if Filoni is trying to do Heir to the Empire, because there's a lot of ramifications. Like they've had Mark Hamill do a lot of the deep fake to make him younger, and there's a whole thing where if they played it right, you could honestly almost save Star Wars with the Heir to the Empire story if you had Mark Hamill participate and deep faked him for the movie. If you can't have Carrie Fisher come back. I would hate. I mean, I think that'd be dumb. But like if Harrison Ford was willing, because he did it for Indiana Jones, to be deep faked, to where they couldn't be major parts of the story like they were in the original books, because I think that would be too much. But you could hand a lot of their story to these new characters from the series, have them still involved, and really make something that builds off of the original trilogy the way that story did and satisfy fans. I just don't trust Kathleen Kennedy to accomplish it.
Something that's interesting to me, and I know I'm not going to like give away a lot, but with this third season of The Mandalorian, there's a lot of talk in the show about the Separatists, and even in the most recent episode, Count Dooku is mentioned.
Oh, yeah,
and it's something that I was hoping maybe that was going to end up coming
Back,
to fruition. Yeah, and I'm just
How
not
in
sure.
the world do you put Christopher Lee? You deep
No.
No.
It's
Okay.
this
Someone
is
has a
long.
tie
This is
to
after
him,
that.
yeah.
But they
okay.
talk about how like Count Dooku was right, and we should
I think
do
they're
this. And
I think
the
they're trying to
Separatists
build
and all that kind of stuff.
into where the First Order came from. I think
Yeah.
that's how they're trying to salvage the sequel trilogy now. Is Filoni's taking the Heir to the Empire story, where basically is where Thrawn tries to rebuild the Empire.
Well, they laid out a timeline at this Star
Yeah.
Wars celebration. As far as now, was that timeline just like including everything that has already happened along with what is, or is that just strictly the layout of what
I haven't
projects
seen
they
the-
have
yeah.
moving forward? Because it was like a massive, like there was at least
I haven't seen it.
10
I think,
properties
I think
in there,
they've
and I'm
like
just like,
everything
my
they've ever
gosh.
named, but they still haven't, because I mean at this point it's funny they named 3 more movies. James Mango's making one about the first Jedi discovering the Force, which I think is a stupid idea.
Well, let's talk about the big one.
Yeah, this
was
was
Daisy
a
Ridley
stupid-ass
coming
idea,
back.
too.
See, now we're getting into it.
Yeah.
It's like
I like the Filoni stuff, but I mean until they force him to do something stupid. But it's like, yeah,
Well, with Rey coming back, and she's starting to, she's a. We don't know if she has a husband. She's going to be the best single mom ever, because she's raising a bunch of Jedi masters.
Yeah, I thought you said she was pregnant, but
She
I know
is.
that was a joke. See, I
no.
haven't heard-
There's a screenshot.
Really?
They showed a screenshot of her being pregnant, and it's. They haven't released a trailer. They showed it.
See,
there.
I just hadn't heard anything, and I saw the
It was-
screenshot, but I didn't think she was pregnant in it. I just thought she was. I don't
It
know.
Clearly looks like she's
I don't know.
she's preggers. Oh yeah, because it was off somebody's phone, but she definitely looks pregnant.
But I know she's supposed to be rebuilding the Jedi Order, and I'm just like, see, that makes me mad because that's what Luke was supposed to do, and it's like they turned Luke into a joke. Like he was supposed to rebuild the Jedi Order,
He's a
become
Force
like
ghost now.
He's supposed to be like the one of the greatest Jedi to ever live and the Grand Master of the new Jedi Order, and Disney was just like, no, we can't have this white male be the hero.
He had his day. Well, I mean, look. At the end of the day, you knew that they were going to try. That's obviously what they're going to try to do is pivot and make a new sequel trilogy, maintain relevance. But ultimately, that's my issue. Is same with Marvel. It's just like I get you do it for the fans. I get there are still people who are probably madly invested in Star Wars as a property. It's just the reason why I bring up the cynical question of is Star Wars worth celebrating? I'm like, it used to be in that, it was a lot more niche and a lot more about maintaining the actual property that was Star Wars that we had come to love. But now, because everything has become a cash cow and franchise hell, It's like we know what Disney has done with Marvel and Star Wars both, and it's drive them into the sequel oblivion where we just take every little thing, and heaven forbid we ever branch off too far from the main story, and we always have to. I mean, there's just so many different other angles that I think you could tell, but they're not willing to explore those because they don't think that they're going to have the fan base that's going to show up. And they may not, because they'll look at Solo. They'll look at the offshoots that have been failures. But then they're not really rushing in to make any huge changes. They catch something like The Mandalorian and see the hit that it is, and then they make 2 other milquetoast series and then start to expand on that. Of course, there were updates, I think, about Andor Season 2 coming, and, like you said, the Ahsoka offshoot, and it's like, I know there's little things that people who follow it are impressed by. I know you still follow Marvel, but for me, at this point, I'm just like, there's too much.
I don't care. I actually still care about Star Wars way more than Marvel, just because... While Star Wars, I thought Obi-Wan was pointless, and Book of Boba Fett honestly could have been done without too, even though I don't think all of it was terrible. It's one of those things where, other than trying to shoehorn in a lot of diversity, they haven't really gone like woke with Star Wars yet. And maybe that's just because they know that brand is one that people will get a little bit more defensive of. I don't know. So I've been okay with Star Wars, whereas Marvel really has just shit the bed. And I mean, because I've actually seen everything Marvel has released so far, whereas I haven't with Star Wars, which is surprising. And maybe because it's like watching a train wreck, because
can't look away. It's like, what are they going to do next?
Well,
I mean, we just watched the Marvels reveal today.
And gosh, I've said it before on the show. In the character Miss Marvel from the comics, I actually do really like. I love that character from the comics. The show is bland and very generic teeny bopper, like, oh, I'm a big fangirl, and then you see the trailer for the movie, and that's all she is in the movie. And I'm like, is she ever going to be anything more than just this, like, want to be like, oh, you're your biggest fan, I'm going to be just like you, and it's like, that's going to get.
I think the movie, to me, it looked like it was going to be a stepping or a way for her to step up and become serious,
right?
But at the same time, the trailer just didn't do it justice. It made it look like it was too funny.
Well, I'm not invested in any of them. I mean, I gotta admit, the first part of the trailer where it literally, what is it? She's in space and she hits it. It flies back and it she hits the window where
places.
Nick Fury is, and she's like,
"Oh, Nick Fury!"
I'm just like, everything has to be followed behind this joke.
Yes,
and that's literally become the punchline that Marvel is now.
Nothing's serious anymore.
Nothing is serious. It's always serious tone from one person, crack a joke over here to lighten the mood.
Yeah. And
it's like, it's a little too much. And nothing has really, ever since this latest phase has ended and even the new one has begun, Marvel is done in my book. Yeah. And I reserve the same thing for Star Wars, because I think after the sequel trilogy, and look, I'll be honest, I wasn't like this mega fan anyway to begin with, but I was intrigued to see what would happen once Disney took over. I was psyched about the sequel trilogy.
Once upon a time, we actually trusted Disney.
With all these properties, it was like, how could they go wrong? And, they have all these heavy hitters. They have the money, the resources. But it's just sad because it's like they've picked these people to put them in the positions of power that don't really rely on creativity as much as milking the cash cow for as much as it's worth.
I think that's a perfect segue into, because the people in power, I think, and how that shift has occurred, you can see the direction Disney wants to take. You can see those who, because, we praised Kevin Feige for so long, but now the more power and the more control he gets, the more I'm kind of like, I don't know, maybe he was never, the golden goose we thought he was, and he just had enough, like George Lucas, he had enough people pulling on the reins to keep him going the right direction, and once he was let loose, because Ike Perlmutter, who was recently ousted, and it is funny because I know the last person they ousted from Marvel, I forget the woman's name, who was over the CGI and all that.
Visual effects.
She said she was only fired because of her agenda was too much for Disney, and she wanted more LGBT representation, and that's why they fired her.
It was the hill worth dying on.
She apparently Disney was bigoted in that regard in firing her, but now you have Ike Perlmutter coming out and saying that he was fired for telling them to stay away from that stuff.
Stay out of politics.
Yeah,
that's right.
But here's the thing: I do believe Ike Perlmutter. He's 80 years old. He's been
he's been with the company 30 years.
He was
25 years.
He's been running Marvel since before Disney bought Marvel.
That's right.
And here's the thing: well, because listen, he was in charge. They actually, because we talked about it on the show years back when it happened, they split Marvel Studios away from Marvel Entertainment as a whole, took it out from under Ike Perlmutter because him and Feige were clashing, and gave Marvel Studios as a whole to Kevin Feige, who reported directly to Alan Horn, who was the vice president at the time. And Ike Perlmutter just oversaw everything else Marvel, and Marvel Studios was solely Kevin Feige's at that point. And now they're getting rid of Ike Perlmutter completely and siphoning off all of Marvel Entertainment to other studios, and everything else is going to be completely controlled by Kevin Feige. And it's funny to see that dynamic switch, because at the time Feige had said, well, Ike Perlmutter didn't want a Black Panther movie. He said that a black-led hero wouldn't sell. He didn't want Captain Marvel because he said a female-led superhero wouldn't sell. And I'm like, did he really say that, or did he say he didn't think the way you presented the... Because he's still control of the comics. They still make Black Panther comics,
Right,
so it's not
yeah.
like Ike Perlmutter was just like,
Get
well,
rid of that hero.
Yeah, no.
Black people don't deserve to be a hero.
And I
It's like,
know
that's what they're making it sound
I like
like.
how
He's
you
an
say it.
80-year-old
You say it
hero.
like an 80-year-old white
he's
guy.
also
Yeah.
a staunch Trump supporter, and I'm sure that didn't help his
That's
cause.
going to be
Oh,
taken
that's-
out of context,
yeah.
too, by the
And it's
way.
one of those things where it's like, do I think Ike Perlmutter's completely innocent? No, because Marvel Comics started going woke before the movies did. But also, he wasn't. It's one of those things
He
where
was
I
the last line of defense. And I
think
this.
he fought it as hard as he could for as
Yeah.
long as he could.
Well, and he even said that he reached out to Ron DeSantis, and he said he told him at the time when Ron DeSantis started stepping on Disney's doorstep saying,
Yeah.
what are you doing here? House and Mouse needs to stay out of this. And he called him up and he said, Ron, you're right. We need to stay out of politics.
Yeah.
It's a no-win situation.
That probably was the
And-
phone call that did him in right
yeah.
there.
Yeah, I was
True.
going to say exactly, and I think once he made his voice heard about how Disney just needs to remain neutral, don't try to pick up on these political headwinds
Yeah.
and try to win the argument of the day. It's not going to work. Even if it works, seems like it's working in the short run, it's going to have backlash. And sure enough, that's the position Disney's in today.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think you have these old guard people who are just like, he mentions, he's like, I'm sure there's a lot of shareholders who are ultimately upset that I was gotten rid of because they want somebody speaking common sense to these executives to say, hey, I'm actually looking out for the main priority of the business, which is to be a business, to make money. And it's like these people who are investing have called on me to do one thing: make them more money for the money they've given us to make a successful business.
Yep.
And you can't spit in those people's face by truly firing the ones who represent the shareholders in the best interest of them. And you see that even Disney has brought back Bob Iger, and Bob Iger's been very staunchly, he's coy in front of the very public eye, but behind the scenes, he's like, no. There's still social causes that we're not going to stay quiet about.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That's not what your job is. Your job is to take us out of reality, give us a world to escape to of joy and merriment. But no, you've lost your way. And I'm sorry, but the Disney's that has grown over the last 100 years is not going to remain the powerhouse that it is if you continue down this road. And that's all Ike is doing, is sounding the alarms. But it just
That's the man that, because
to deaf ears.
Marvel was going bankrupt in the 90s. That's why they started selling off properties to movie companies. That's why Sony ended up with Spider-Man, Fox ended up with X-Men. They were all in different companies because they were trying. And Ike Perlmutter, he didn't become CEO until 2005, but he was with Marvel well before then, and he was one of the board members that helped see them through the 90s and salvaged Marvel. They could have, Marvel as it exists may not even exist if it wasn't for someone like him that helped to
It would have been parted out to the
Yeah.
point that it was not recognizable anymore.
And it's one of those things where it's like, here's someone who knows what it's like to see a company at the end of its rope and to help salvage it and know, okay, if you want to be successful, stay out of politics.
Yeah.
It's like,
Look at Budweiser
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
$4 billion
And that's just
down.
so far
Yeah.
in the last 2
And
days.
it's funny.
Yeah,
They bring Bob Iger back to help save Disney, and it's like one of the first things you do is get rid of somebody who already saved another company from going bankrupt. And not that Disney's had any threat of being bankrupt, but it's
well, again, we were just talking about it. I mean, they've got plenty of rope, but how much rope do you need to hang yourself?
Yep.
And of course, for Disney, it's a lot. But eventually, even with someone like Bob Iger at the helm, who I think is more guilty than, of course, Chapek was for this incident and why Disney is in the shape it's in, ultimately you still come down to being beholden to the shareholders. And if the shareholders are not happy with the direction, you're going to see some shakeup in the board. You're going to see some shakeup in terms of people dipping and getting out of the business. And ultimately, you're going to see enough people and the value of Disney will drop. And the fact of the matter is, like you even brought up with Budweiser, Sean, in these instances,
Bud Light, sorry.
Either it's Anheuser.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
it's
Anheuser-Busch.
all
the same.
InBev, yeah.
InBev, you
Owns it all.
The
Yeah.
fact is you have to keep the pressure on them. If you do not keep the pressure on them, it gives these companies the leeway and the wherewithal to keep fighting. And you have to lay it on thick. Continue to not go see movies. Continue to not turn up. I get, like I said, I was telling somebody else, and they're like, well, isn't it kind of hypocritical? I mean, we brought it up on the show that, you would have a Disney Plus subscription. It's like, to a degree, yes. If you wanted to go full, stalwart, complete band, I understand it. But trust me, they may not reveal the streaming numbers for normal public
But
viewing
you're not
record.
going to keep making a show that nobody's watching.
But just like you see Netflix fail with a show and it gets canceled, Disney's going to be in the same boat. They can't continue to invest millions and even sometimes billions when you talk about Marvel and Star Wars, these huge properties. You can't allow for these properties to cost that amount of money to make and it be a flop and nobody tune in. Look at Rings of Power.
Yep.
We just found out that Rings of Pooh only had 37% of its audiences that tuned in finish the series. That's an abysmal performance for a studio that spent $1 billion on the property.
Any other show that was that bad would have been canceled, but because Amazon spent billions to acquire the rights and make this show, they're going to try to salvage whatever they can. And the same thing with Disney. Yeah. Star Wars is doing fine now, but I mean, they spent billions of dollars to own the rights to Star Wars. They're not going to just say, oh, well, yeah, it's not bringing in any money, but this is more important to make sure that we tell people what we feel about these agendas. No, that at some point they're going to realize, just like with Netflix and a lot of their series, if nobody's watching it, there's no point in making it.
Oh, and I think that brings us to our final headline, which happens to be what we started the show off with in the Mario movie.
Yeah.
And the fact that it just clobbered the box office.
It
mean,
did.
it is insane amount. I mean, I talked about it hitting 150, 170. Domestically, it broke $200 million,
which is still crazy. Yeah.
I think actually it was just under. I think it was 170.
378.
That was
global.
worldwide. Yeah.
Global. That was everything combined. But $378 million globally. That's insane. It ended up becoming, I think it was just behind The Incredibles 2 in terms of North American launch weekend. It beat out Frozen 2 in terms of its global launch, or in terms of its weekend.
It was the international box office was 172. So yeah, domestically it did around 205 million.
Yeah. So domestically it is just under Incredibles 2 for largest animated feature opening weekend.
Crazy, yeah.
Beat out Frozen 2, and it is the highest grossing animated feature for opening weekend globally when you include the worldwide total. Yeah. So that's just a monumental hit for Nintendo and for Illumination. And the fact of the matter is of course, you got to see them thinking, cha-ching, what are we going to do next?
Yep.
And again, I think this is where we kind of pump the brakes and say,
oh, it's not even opened in Japan yet. It's going to be huge there.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It said there's play
I
ahead.
would have thought it would open there first.
Yeah,
I know.
There's play ahead with Korea and Japan yet to open. So yeah, they haven't opened in South Korea or Japan.
Crazy.
It's going to be huge in both those countries.
No doubt. Yeah. It has to be.
But y'all, like the tweet I shared earlier where it was in comparison to Lightyear's open, it was 200-something million in 1 weekend, and Lightyear didn't even make half that in 4 weeks before it was taken out of theaters. It was only in theaters for 4 weeks.
Yep.
That's insane.
But again, and that's where it matters. At the end of the day, when you look at that bottom line of the cash flow and what's coming in, it tells you right there. No matter how you want to defend it,
well, Strange World was worse.
Strange World was worse.
So. Yeah, 226 million was its life. It's
5 days.
And that's the thing.
But that was Lightyear's gross. Was 226.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
But that's its entire theatrical gross was 226 million.
They beat that
for the whole
weekend.
The whole run. Lightyear's whole run only made what Mario made in 1 weekend.
Wow.
But I think a lot of that is, again, it's word of mouth. It's people went and saw it on Thursday or Thursday, because it came out on Wednesday.
Well, go ahead.
But they shared and said, oh, no, take your kids. There's no LGBT crap in it. There's no wokeness. It's a good family film. There's no cussing, which is, even Pixar movies have cuss words in them now. And I'm like, if you've got a 4 or 5-year-old and you're taking them to a Pixar movie, and
it's not completely safe.
Yeah, it's not completely safe. Now, I mean, I would argue and say, yes, I think a couple of those choice words are, kids hear worse at school. It's like, if your kid can handle it, take them to see it. But again, if you're going to make a film that's driven towards elementary school kids, then you got to keep it completely clean. And Mario delivers that.
Yeah.
I mean, I would go see it again for myself, but I definitely want to take my kids to go see it. I want to see the joy and laughter on their
reaction.
face.
That's right.
And I missed that. So that would be me seeing it twice and them seeing it twice.
Well, and it's funny because that's kind of been the argument with Disney resting on these remakes of old classics, is to try to reintroduce them to a new generation.
I think it's to try to make us forget the old and only accept the new version.
No doubt. Otherwise, why would they make any changes that they've made?
No.
But they're doing it, to put that imprint on a new generation and, like you said, rehash the old stuff to give the nostalgia to the parents who are showing up that's bringing them. The problem is it's not only flopped, but this is the area in where Disney has an identity crisis. We've talked about it extensively over the last several weeks with Disney, but ultimately the reason it's such a big deal that Mario is successful is, I will say, it's word of mouth, but also this is the first property, Nintendo property that has hit the theaters. But the fact that it's hit and it's been successful, not only in terms of box office, but with audiences.
Audiences love it,
It's no doubt going to bring them back for the next wave. And you gotta understand, this is what I was talking about with the whole streaming numbers behind the scenes. Disney can't ignore the success of Mario and see what's going on there and say, oh, how do we imitate this? Well, you used to be pretty damn good at it.
Yeah.
The problem is you've rested on your laurels, you've turned over to the woke police and made sure you've crammed all this crap that nobody wants to take their kids to, shoved it in there regardless of what feedback you get, hoping that, it's just going to make the difference anyway, and we'll make it up either in streaming or other releases.
And I guarantee you...
But people have finally stood up and stopped showing up. And trust me, after Lightyear and Strange World's debacle, Disney, especially the animated, departments, are going back to the drawing board.
I hope so.
And I know they're coming. I know
they
they
need to be firing more people.
I don't think they're going to be completely clean. Like, they're not
No.
going to stop trying to shoehorn things. But I think they are going to be more subtle about it again, like they were in the past, just because they don't want to step on toes.
Right.
I do think, Nintendo's going to look at the sales and see a complete success. They're not going to give a crap about what the critics had to say. And everyone else in Hollywood's going to look and think, well, how do we, like you said, how do we get that? How do we get back to that? And it's funny because I guarantee you, just like with Marvel and how critics were always, a day late and a dollar short with how they would coincide with the audiences. The next Nintendo movie that comes out, critics are going to praise because they're automatically going to assume they're going to be like, audiences love it. So we'll, even if as long as it's decent, even if it's generic, we won't bash it as hard until they make something bad, and then critics will be behind on that one again because that's all critics do anymore. Try to appease the woke mob in Hollywood and then play catch up with the audiences when they realize that's not what the audiences want.
I wish that kind of I agree completely. We've seen this trend now in the last several years on Rotten Tomatoes. And what I think is so funny is, not only have we covered extensively in that change, but I wish the rest of the culture reacted the same way that we do with the critics on Rotten Tomatoes. Because it's like you see this huge discrepancy between audience score and critic score, and you usually know I tend to agree with the audience score.
If the audience score's way high and the critic score's low, then
Now, usually, sometimes, too, if it's mixed and it's in the 70s or 80s for both, it could go either way.
Yeah.
You kind of get some subtleties that I don't necessarily agree with slipped in there that general audiences don't really... They'll ignore or they don't pick up on.
Now, if you see a movie that's in the 90s or 100 with critics, but it's only in the 60s or 70s with audiences...
immediately it's trash.
Yeah.
It is woke garbage. Yep. And that exactly... And I just wish the rest of the culture could pick up on those those things. I wish it reflected what actually goes on, and you kind of start to see it. Again, we're the ones that are the consumers. We vote with our dollars and our eyeballs and our feet. We take them to the theater. We show up, and we're the ones that give our money over, our hard-earned dollars, to some of this dribble. And it's only us who can make the difference that we want to see in Hollywood. Does it happen overnight? No, it doesn't. But I'm telling you, the big companies out there who are pushing this and trying to shove it down our throats, it's hurting them a lot more in the pocketbook and way more in terms of what it's going to cost in terms of their careers and their jobs and where they're going to eventually invest their dollars if we don't show up and support bad crap movies. And that's where we got it. We've got to keep the pressure on them. And so go support Mario just for the fact that it is a wholesome movie. Does it check all of the boxes that I would love to see as a traditional family conservative man? No, it doesn't. But it's a good start, and it's a way for us to take back the culture. You got to take baby steps, but you also got to reward the films that don't shove it in your face.
Yeah.
And this is one of those ways to do it. So continue to succeed and help Mario succeed and get out there and go see it. It's worth watching. It is. Alrighty, guys, I think we're done with our headlines. I think we're ready to move on to our vices.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. Vices. Made me think of that cigar we were all
Smokey,
smoking earlier.
E Smokey and the Bandit.
Y'all don't know what this is.
No,
I don't.
I came up with it
I hope you
10
did.
minutes before the show.
That's sometimes it's the best one.
What'd you do? We don't use that one enough. It's so good. I love Chris Farley. Tommy Boy's such a good man.
We use that one enough.
At
all the
least
time.
once a show.
All the time.
At least since we've had it. Alrighty, guys.
I love it.
This is actually interesting. We've kind of maybe dabbled in this a little bit, but I don't know if we've full-blown talked about it or at least in detail.
Yeah.
Content back catalog overload.
Oh, yeah. That's a
How
good one.
much
All of it.
do you have?
ahead,
all the
Wow.
streaming. How much would you venture to guess in terms of movies and TV shows is in your back catalog and that you have? I mean, even throw games in
I
there.
was going to
Video
say, I have
games.
video games. I mean, I do have movies and shows, too, but...
And does
and
it
books. I have just a back
There
out
you
and
go.
everything.
Yeah.
does it stress you out, or do you are you okay with the grind, or is it a grind, or do you just chip away at it ever so lightly, or are you okay with dying, knowing?
Oh, I know.
You'll never finish your back catalog.
Yeah, no,
Wow.
I already know, and I guess
Don't think about it that much.
for me, it's one of those things, like, it's not the most important thing in my life to be able to see, like, yes, I love to watch movies, play video games, read a book, but obviously living life and being in a community and actually experiencing things with people is more important to me than locking myself up in my basement and consuming a constant media just because I want to. Yeah, I do want to, but yeah, I already know there's so many, like, as far as books, movies, shows, video games combined, that it's like I'm not gonna get to all of them, but I'll try.
Do you have a list?
Actually, I did make just certain things I wanted to do this year, including just entertainment wise. So as far as like actual productive, like good things for the year that I want to do, I did make a list of like certain books. Was it books, movies, and I think shows that I wanted to try to finally get through this year. So I have been reading Dennis Prager's Rational Bible because I bought Genesis and Exodus and never read through all of them.
I've got both too.
I'm almost
And
done.
I haven't read through
I'm
all
almost
of them.
done with Genesis. It's really good. I bought 1883.
I've still got Jordan
Or
Peterson's
19,
book,
sorry.
12 Rules for Life.
I have that.
And I haven't even started it.
But I might have my list on my thing I can look up. But yeah, there's definitely shows and movies and video games that I have actually gotten through some of my old back catalog games. I played through. I haven't
Same.
all of them, but I did get through some of the God of War games. And I've also been playing Resident Evil, 'cause some of the older ones I never played and wanted to. But
RE4 remake I just beat. It's amazing. It's incredible. It's such a good game. Definitely can't play it through as many times as I played through the original. Don't have that much time on my hand. But the
All the time in the
games
world.
are by far, I think, the back catalog for me. But movies as well. I can't tell you how many times I've got like probably 3 or 4 lists, mainly from people who've recommended certain movies. And I tried to cram it all together in one giant list and just keep track of it that way. And every few years I'll go back and revisit it to see if like I happen to catch one on there just naturally. Because I'll be honest, there's times where I see a movie on there and I'm just like, I'm not in the mood for that right now.
Yeah.
That's my
And then
problem.
there's also times where it's like, I hate to say it, but games are tough because there are certain ones I want to play, but then
They're time consuming.
they're
so, yeah.
so much more time consuming, and I just don't have that much time to invest anymore if you want to be productive and enjoy. Because that's the thing with a movie. I could watch 5 or 6 movies probably on my list, and that counts as one game beaten. Especially, and that used to not be the case for older games. Now when you're talking 15, 20-hour games at minimum until you get into the open world stuff, it's just like you have to pick your battles. You have to pick and choose. And even for me, when it comes to the content of like movies and TV shows, I'm just a lot more like picky about once I dive into something. I still plan on getting into Yellowstone. I've talked about that on here multiple times in 1883 and 1923. But I know once I do, I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm going to watch it, and I'm going to be like, why didn't I watch that sooner? But it's just getting into the mood and then pushing play. I felt like that was some of even the Oscar noms that we watched. I was dreading watching Banshees, and then I watched it, and I was like, that was a phenomenal film. I'm so glad I watched it finally. And so that happens to be the case with my back catalog a lot. It's stuff that I do want to see, but I just don't find the time because I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna like it or not. Sean, what about you?
I am the exact opposite. I guess I'm more of a free spirit when it comes to this stuff because I don't have a list. I don't have a back catalog.
You got like a queue though, don't you?
Where?
Like
In
on
what?
Netflix, or like even like, do you ever just throw something in there and like, oh, I'm gonna add this to my queue. I'll get to it later.
I put stuff in there and then I delete it. Like I just don't. I don't have like if I hear somebody tell me about a show, it's like, yeah, I might have that in the back of my head. I don't write it down or anything. There's so many other things that I just, it's almost like every day or night that I have the chance to watch something or play something, it's just, I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. I don't think about it ahead of time. It's like if I sit down on the couch and it's like I've got an hour or two to play a game, I'll sit there and think, all right, which one do I want to play right now? Like I don't think about it that day. Like, oh, tonight I'm going to play this game. And the same thing with movies. That's how I see so many obscure movies is because I watch
I'm in the
everything.
same boat, but there are times where it's like, especially with a game more so than a movie, because again, it's much more time consuming. So I'm a little bit more deliberate there about how I'm going to spend my time.
Yeah, I have ADHD. I don't play all the way through a game.
But
usually.
and I can't do that. Like the certain ones I can. If it's a shooter or something where I'm just hopping online with you all to hang out and play, that's fine. I don't care about completion there. But if it's a story-driven game or a game that I'm going to pick up and I'm about to just pour, like, why would I pour countless hours into something that, like, I just can't do it. I don't have the completionist mentality of like, oh, I gotta get all the trophies or all. Like, I know that's a whole nother stress that some people have. I've watched this one YouTube
that
streamer,
depends
the
on the game for me
completionist,
too. Yeah,
and like he will. I mean, granted, when you have
Lindsay's bread and butter too.
Well, I was gonna say a YouTube channel dedicated to it, and you make money
if
off of
it. If I got paid
it.
to complete every hour, I would.
But he even talks about the stress sometimes of like the amount of hours you waste playing again, and there's times where he's like, and I've completed it twice, like done everything in some games.
Some of them you have to get all the trophies. And
No. Gotten all the trophies, and then does it again to get them all again.
Oh wow.
No.
Like, and I'm just like, again, I know it's his bread and butter.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, I'm not that anal about it.
No, I think
but I do have to finish a story, or I do have to play enough of a game where I'm like, there are some where I've maybe gotten my fill, and I'm like, I won't finish it. But there's some titles in my library where I've gone in and I'm just like, now if I don't like a game, I'll just put it down and I won't feel bad about it, not revisiting it. But there are certain games that I've played and I've gotten into and I'm like, oh man, I need to revisit that and beat it, because if I don't, I'll
come back to it and finish it. I just don't sit down and play like only this game. It's like 9 times out of 10 I'll buy a game. Like I bought Dying Light 2. The first game was great. I bought the second one as soon as it came out, pre-ordered it. I started playing. I probably put 10 or 12 hours into that game, and then another game came out and I was like, oh, I'll start playing that one and haven't touched Dying Light in over a year. So,
I bounce back and forth. I usually have 2 or 3 shows, movies, games.
Now shows, we'll have 2 or 3 of those going. It's usually I've got a comedy that I'll watch. We have a 30-minute show, and then usually some kind of a drama that we're
It's
watching.
weird.
Cable.
I'm very linear.
Yeah.
See, I get bored after even
do
if it's
too.
really good, no matter how good. Like even something like Breaking Bad, I can watch maybe 5 or 6.
I've actually enjoyed that shows
yeah.
are starting to come out weekly again.
Yes.
Instead
Agreed.
of just dumping
Binging it?
Yeah, instead of binging
I've actually
it.
liked that
I got
a bit
tired
too.
of binging it.
It just was after a while. It's like, okay, I kind of want a different flavor of something, because if it's too serious or even comedy, like I love One Piece, but it's so goofy that it's like I can't just sit and watch that forever.
That's what I was gonna say. For me, I will only walk away from a TV show to go to a different genre. Just to
I don't
mix
watch
it up.
I would say I don't watch the
can't-
same like 2 or 3 shows of the same genre.
Yeah,
They're usually
Breaking
different.
Bad is too heavy to not take a break from. But then again, I mean, I hate to say it, it's like I still haven't seen the last season of Better Call Saul because I'm waiting for it to pop up on streaming, and I probably just need a cave.
That'll be one that I'm definitely going to
but
catch up on.
that
once
one
that
I
last
will
season
binge.
drops.
I'll binge through that whole season when it
I
drops.
did. I binged every season of Breaking Bad once I started catching up because I loved it. But it's still one of those things that I remember when I first watched Breaking Bad. It was actually around. It's funny because I was getting into. It was around Christmas, which is a weird. It's like it's not a Christmas show, so it's like I'm decorating my Christmas tree
like
and
The
there's lights on.
Stand and
It's
My
like
Mom.
yeah, I'm decorating the Christmas tree. Well, it just happened to be the first time I got into it, and I loved it so much that I wasn't going to stop just because it was Christmas. So I'm decorating the Christmas tree while Tuco's over here crushing up and snorting. and at one point, like I stopped for a while and ended up watching Rango because it was just airing on TV or whatever, and I was like, it was just a random Christmas Breaking Bad Rango, and I'm like, it broke up the monotony and the seriousness because Rango's is more comedic, but I mean, it's just one of those things that.
Now, Sean, with you being married, do you have a separate? I know you say you don't have a list, but do you have separate things you're going to watch with your wife?
Oh no, yeah. There's things that we watch together, and then there's things that we don't agree on. So I'll watch it on my own.
And then what about her? She have her own things?
Oh
that-
yeah.
That she'll. I know the Shonda Rhimes stuff she loves.
Oh yeah, she's all into that. All into that garbage.
But she would say some of the stuff you love
It's
is
really
garbage,
weird.
too.
A lot of the shows that she watches, there's just too many. I'm not going to say it.
But here's
Too
the
much gay stuff in the shows that she watches. I don't understand. Every reality show is gay. Every show that she watches, it's
Drama
like
is that- yeah.
every
Because here's
time
the
I start
thing.
watching, I'm like, she's gonna be gay. Watch
Women-
and then there they go, lesbians.
Women
I'm like,
will,
call
they
it every
get
time.
caught up in the drama. They watch the
Yeah,
reality
they don't. She don't
shows.
care about the other stuff. She's
Nope.
just one of the story, and a lot of the shows are stuff that she just puts on to fall asleep to. And I'm like, no, if I sit down and watch a show,
I wanna
like
be
I'm
invested
gonna
in
watch the show.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, I like violence. You know, I love violence, so I watch violent shows. She doesn't get into that.
I mean, I have shows
So-
I'll watch to fall asleep to, but they're shows I've already seen, and I'll just throw on in
Sure.
the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
I'm watching, like, I can throw on a Frasier episode or Boy
Yeah.
Meets World.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll do Futurama
Yeah.
at night because it's funny. And
But
and
I'm really
something I don't
bad
have to pay
about like
attention
even
to.
if I do have something planned that this is what I'm gonna watch. There's been tons of times that it's like we're supposed to watch this movie for the show.
Yeah.
And also it's especially Oscar time when we have our screeners.
Those are always
and it's
hard
just
anyway.
like, dude, I'll sit and like tonight I gotta watch women talking, and it's like, no, I'm gonna watch Dune for the 40th time, and I do, and I sit and watch Dune again, and it's like, dang
Okay.
it, I'm supposed to watch women talking.
We always do that too. So you have a back catalog. You know
Oh,
there's
no.
other new
Yeah.
stuff, but you always end up revisiting.
I'll revisit the old stuff all the time.
And there's nothing wrong with that if you like it. I mean, obviously, it's like I've seen Boy Meets World probably 7-8 times.
Shows are different from. I will revisit movies over and over and over again, but
Yeah.
shows not so much.
I tend to actually, be the opposite. I revisit shows more than
Same.
I mean, certain movies I'll court, like Lord of the Rings. I'll watch those forever. I don't care because
Yeah.
those are so great.
Shows
but-
are just too long for me to
Oh, yeah.
revisit over and over again.
I think that's what I like about it. It's almost like I either catch something new or it's longer than a movie that I've seen a dozen times.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, if there's a classic like Lord of the Rings, I never get tired of
Yeah.
it. But if it's like a movie that I've seen over, like I can quote everything from Christmas Vacation or Elf, and I've seen them a dozen times every Christmas season, but I still watch them because it's tradition. Yet at the
And they're
same
still
time,
enjoyable.
they're
I mean,
enjoyable
for me anyway.
But there's a reason why you only watch them at that time of the year, or because it's Christmas. But at the same time, it's like I don't really have to see that movie ever again.
Mm-hmm.
It would be fine to take a break for 4 or 5 years before I revisit it. Whereas a show, you get that length naturally through from season 1 to whenever it ends because it takes you so long to get through it.
yeah.
For me, it is. I think it's seeing now. Granted, if I like Scrubs, I've seen so many times that there's really nothing new in it. That like, but I mean, something that like I've seen once and then I go back and revisit and see how certain things build or how they were foreshadowing. Like that's one thing I love because I mentioned One Piece earlier. Actually, that's one that I just run in the background here recently and have seen like thematic things that I'm like, oh wow, he hinted at this 200 episodes before it ever even gets introduced, because that show's massively insanely long. So I was really impressed with the world building in that, and that's why I think some shows I like to revisit just to see how that world building came about.
And you brought up Scrubs, and I think that's a good point. That was something I just recently.
That's one I haven't revisited in a long time.
I haven't finished it. I'm like season 4, and that was my goal, was to continue and to finally just finish it. But it's funny because it's not that I hated it. It just kind of gradually fell off the radar because it was something I was like, I'd watch because it's a half-hour show. It's nothing crazy. Yeah. But it was funny because I'm like, there is a little bit of, this is where the nostalgia kicks in. It's like older shows I would almost prefer to watch that I remember a piece from my childhood. Yeah. Or, or growing up. And it's like there was already a connection instinctively of rewatching it versus if I'm watching it now, there's still some intrinsic value as to seeing it and seeing what the cultural phenomenon that it was, or something like even Firefly that didn't get its justice. But that's shorter anyway. But something like Scrubs, I remember bringing up Buffy and Angel. Yeah. And I know you and Neil have a fondness for that. And I think I was talking about it to Neil one time. I was like, I'm finally going to do that after I finish Scrubs. And Neil was just like, don't. He was, and he loves it. He loves the series. He was like, it's not worth it. He was like, there's other things that are out. He was like, it was great for the time. He's like, but if you didn't catch it when it was on, and it's not part of the cultural phenomenon now. Yeah.
He's
that's
like,
how
you're
I feel
not
about
Scrubs.
Right. You're not. He's like,
I
it's
thought
kind
it
of
was funny
not
then,
worth
but
it.
we tried to watch it again a couple years ago, and I was just
funny.
like,
there's funny parts.
I don't know. I guess my humor has changed.
It's just I've seen it so much now that
I just didn't want to watch it anymore.
But I just find it. Yeah, I'm like, for something like Angel and Buffy, maybe I'll make my way around it. But I know so much of that is part of when it aired and when it was being talked about in general. And I've brought it up on the show before, my insane fascination with every once in a while dipping my toe back into the wrestling world just because it's entertainment.
And it's fun.
It's fun, but it's also a part of what I grew up with, and I just enjoy dipping my toe back into that world and
every now and then. It's like I don't plan, because I did the same recently. I was like, man, I haven't watched that in so long. I'd love to see it. I watched
WrestleMania,
like the last 2 WrestleManias and some of the originals. But it's one of those things where it's like, am I planning on catching every Monday Night Raw and every Friday night SmackDown? No, I ain't got the time to tune into wrestling 2 nights a week for every day, like every week of the year, because it goes the whole year.
Well, of course, it's a male soap opera.
It is.
But
it's great. It's
talk
great.
about a back catalog.
It's better than Shonda Rhimes.
Oh gosh, yes, way better. Talk about violence right there. Yeah. But it's funny because,
it's emotional violence.
Talk about
Shonda
another mental violence. Yeah, you're literally just bludgeoning your head and your mental capacity to contain any more knowledge when you watch that dribble. But
Are you insulting Sean's wife?
No,
I am.
I have a feeling I'll probably marry somebody who has the same taste, so I'm okay with that. Women can enjoy that. I can't tell you how many dating profiles I've seen where they're just like trashy reality shows, and I'm like, that's fine as long as you don't pretend to be one of them. I'm okay if that's your guilty pleasure.
That's like, because there are people that idolize that lifestyle. I'm like, oh,
it's just
if you're a drama
our taste
queen,
is so different when it comes to shows, dude. I'm telling, it really is. Like we could have a topic. We'll have this as a topic one time, but like other people and their different tastes. But dude, we're watching this Harrison Ford show on Apple right now, the Shrinking show.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah,
dude. My wife gets upset over Sons of Anarchy. She's like, I'm not watching that filth. It's just violence. Everybody's killing everybody. They cuss. There are more F words in one sentence in this show than in all of Pulp Fiction combined. And everybody in it is gay. Like the whole show is just
and she'll still
gays.
watch it. Yeah.
And their mouths are filthy. What they talk about is just so disturbing. And the morals and values that the show just like disintegrates, and it's terrible. And she loves it. She loves this show. And I'm like, oh my God, we got to watch another episode of that. Let's just get it over with, because this is getting canceled after the first season. I know it's not coming back. It's a terrible show.
Well, wait, but would she also?
But she
not
loves
want,
it.
She wouldn't watch Game of Thrones though, would she?
No.
Yeah.
She's like, oh no, Game of Thrones is just a
Filthy.
softcore porn,
Yeah, filthy,
or whatever. And
yeah.
I'm like, well, yeah, the second season definitely is.
Yeah.
But
And it's great.
But yeah, exactly. It's great.
It's great.
But yeah, I'm just like, it's so funny because she'll die on this one hill about this show, it being too violent or just being too sexual or whatever, and then we're watching this show, and I'm like, how is this different? Like, this is not any different. This is worse.
It's different.
God,
They don't actually show the nudity.
no, it's well, yeah. It's
Do
just
they? I
because
don't know.
she
I've not
likes
seen
it,
it.
so
I mean, it's Apple TV Plus,
she
they
finds no
can,
wrong
but-
with it.
Right.
But it's just like, it's terrible. Don't watch it. Shrinking is a freaking terrible show.
I haven't
It's
seen
horrible.
it. I don't know anything about it. I like
No,
I said,
Harrison
I
Ford
think
sucks in it, and what's his name?
Yellowstone. I honestly, I
Uh,
should finish Better Call Saul, but Yellowstone and that whole saga will
Yeah.
probably be my next thing
Yeah,
to tackle.
and she's getting with that one too, where it's too violent or whatever, and I'm just like, oh god. But we can watch all these queers in this one show. It's like, I'm sorry,
No, I
I'm
know what
not
you
gay
mean.
bashing. I'm just saying
no.
you can't.
Yes,
Everything
but
on
look,
Apple is gay.
yes,
it's all gay.
No, it's the whole culture right now. You got to throw it in there, and it's like, and then of course they're never the bad guy. It's so. It's easy to tell. It's like, well, we know they're not going to be bad because
Nope.
they're gay.
Yep.
It's like they got to be a good, virtuous person because, well, we can't make the homosexual a terrible
Yeah.
person. It's like that. That's why the reads on things today are just so easy to tell when they're woke and it's just garbage because there is
Yeah.
no genuinely
That's
good
what shrinking
storytelling.
is, woke garbage.
Yeah.
But we're
anyways,
watching it together.
Even then, it's like I probably won't ever catch up on Angel and Buffy, even though I want to. I may one day finish Scrubs. It's weird because I do have this huge back catalog, but I watched one video recently. It was talking about specifically with games, and they were like, half the battle was just thinking of how much they had to play, and then he said when he put it in a list and he kind of made it more digestible.
Overwhelming.
He said it almost felt like a little bit of relief when he realized, oh, okay, this is exactly, even with adding new games here and there when they would come out, he was like, these are the games that like I do want to tackle and I want to play. At least composing it in this kind of list allowed me to, digest it more easily so that I'm like, oh, I can actually approach this. This is something that I may be able to accomplish. And I don't know. It's like I haven't done that with like all movies or books or, it's like, but it's just, I do get a little, I get a little stressed.
There's just too much out
When
there.
I open
haven't
up
even
a queue-
opened the Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
I haven't even opened it yet.
I get it. I
mean, I haven't finished God of War. I got to start playing God of War Ragnarok. Like,
Yeah.
I haven't even.
See, and that's the thing. There are some that I do put down, and I'm glad that after I put it down, I'm just like, okay, that's one that I'll tell other people like that's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
It needs to, and y'all have played enough of it to realize it is.
Yeah.
But it's just like,
That's
man,
great.
yeah, there's certain games that it's like, once I catch on and
That
I'm
was-
realizing,
yeah.
I mean, that was RE4 remake.
God
for
of
me.
War was a game that was one that I played. I didn't play any other games until I finished
until you
that
finished
one.
it. Yeah. And Ragnarok was the same for me.
Yeah.
It was just like once I got it, I was like, I'm playing this. This is where I'm gonna spend. And then it was throughout the Christmas season. I'm like, oh, I can watch these other movies I've already seen because get me in the Christmas spirit.
Yeah.
But it's like this is the game I'm focused on.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know. Teach their own. Figure it out.
Teach their own.
That's right.
I'm gonna have to make a list.
Do it. I'm telling you, you'll feel 10 pounds lighter. Like you just
I might not because my
pooped.
list might be way too long.
pooped a big
I might just
load.
think
Have
this
an
is
anxiety
impossible.
attack. Like, I
Yeah.
can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't
You can't-
accomplish everything.
Can't do it.
Thank you all so much for tuning in. We appreciate all the love and the support out there. As always, like, share, subscribe, all of our social media. Right there at the bottom of your screen, Red Moon Book, Red Moon Tweets, Red Moon Picks, and of course, search for Red Moon Productions on YouTube and Rumble. We're on there. Again, it's going to cost a little bit more money to get live on Rumble. We'll get there someday. So, yeah, we'd love for all your support on any platform you find us on. We just share it and love it.
And love it.
Consume it.
Share
Don't
the
put us on the
Share
back
it.
burner. Consume it. Podcast is another thing. Sometimes
Sean
I'm just
said
like,
it. I had to.
Alrighty, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in. But as always, there's that old way of reaching out to us. Keith knows it best.
I'm a little stuffy. Let's see if we can do it. You might want to email us. Where? RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
Still got it.
I
Look
like
at
it.
him. He acted like he was winded. He's taking
like-
a sip.
It's
My nose
insane
was
when you
stuffy is why.
when
so
you
it's
talk
kinda...
to yourself and answer yourself. That's
Yeah?
they say that
Yeah.
means you're insane.
Oh, I talk to myself all the time.
But you answer yourself.
Yeah.
You ask yourself
Who else is
questions and
gonna
then you
answer
answer
me?
them. Yeah.
Well, if
see,
I don't
that's-
answer me,
that's
who else
insanity.
will?
I like to think of it as God talking back.
That you're God.
No,
He's talking through you.
He's talking. He's giving me the answer that I know deep down subconsciously.
Okay.
And I'm just
like,
need to convince
God,
myself. All right, I gotta listen to him.
I really want some McDonald's. Is that okay? I mean, I've been trying to lose weight. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, thanks, God. Thanks.
Get a McFlurry too.
You're a real one.
You've earned it.
Man.
But no, I do the same. I'm crazy. Alrighty. There's the email at the bottom of the screen. Thank you all so much. Our big review next week is going to be Renfield. Can Nicolas Cage actually make an entertaining film? Well, he
His
did in
last
the
one
last
was.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
What was it again called? Oh, crap. I'm forgetting
Oh,
it.
God.
Last year,
The
what
one
was
with
it?
Pedro Pascal?
Yes,
Yeah.
because that's become a meme now from that movie that I see.
Oh, yeah, it's
everywhere.
the
when they're
cars,
driving
yes,
in the car,
yeah, I
and
love
it's
it.
all
It
of
is
them are
hilarious.
spot on.
The unbearable weight of massive talent.
That's it.
talent.
Yeah, I had to
Yes.
think about it for a minute.
And then he probably made 6 movies in between that one and this one.
Yeah.
And we just haven't seen those
Yeah,
yet.
they're in
And
China right
yeah,
now.
Yeah, they'll come to the States.
Yeah.
And we'll see them eventually on
Huh.
streaming.
Bangkok Dangerous 2.
Dreams come true. Alrighty, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
and
Kevin Sorbo.
love him. Love Sorbo.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.